Yes, who is it?
Captain Lewis, sir.
Come in, Merriweather, come in.
I just came from Congress, Mr. Jefferson.
Well, what's the news, quickly?
They passed the Indian Trading House Bill.
Thank God.
With $2,500 in it for our expedition.
Our Corps of Discovery can proceed at last, Merriweather. Now, I want you to go at once to see William Clark and convince him to take joint command of this expedition with you.
Yes, sir.
I've written instructions for you which may help you convince him. Let me read you a part of them. The object of your mission is to explore the Missouri River and such principal stream as, by its course and communication with the waters of the Pacific Ocean, may offer the most direct and practicable water communication across the continent for the purposes of commerce. You are to observe the soil, the face of the country, the growth of vegetable production, the animals, minerals, climate, the Indian tribes, their language, traditions, occupations, food, laws, and art.
The year was 1803. The expedition Thomas Jefferson launched to the north and west through 1,000 miles of mountains was destined to inspire a nation. For the journals written by Lewis and Clark as they moved up the Missouri and pushed on to the Pacific were read and read again by later men of foresight and wisdom, by dreamers and doers, by men who envisioned the coming of the railroads. Men like Dr. Sam Barlow of Massachusetts, who wrote articles dreaming the dream of a railroad from New York to the Columbia River as early as 1834. Like Asa Whitney, who prodded the project to a public movement. Edwin Johnson, the Vermont civil engineer, who probed the journals of Lewis and Clark to prove the practicality of a northern road. And Josiah Perham, who labored ceaselessly in Congress toward a charter for the northern transcontinental line, and with eventual success.
Mr. Lincoln?
Yes, Mr. Reed.
I have some bills for you to sign, sir, from Congress.
Good. Something constructive, I hope.
Yes, sir.
A bill granting lands to aid in construction of a railroad and telegraph line from Lake Superior to Puget Sound on the Pacific coast by the Northern Road. I heard they'd finally passed this bill, Reed. Is it the same one I studied?
Yes, Mr. Lincoln. It creates a company by direct charter called the Northern Pacific Railroad Company.
Well, after After 3 years of watching the Union torn apart, it seems fitting to set my hand to a piece of paper which may help bind it together. Can you give me the date, Reed?
July 2nd, sir, 1864.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah.
The men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Home, home, Johnny comes marching home. Home, home, Johnny comes marching home. Get ready for the Jubilee, hurrah, hurrah. With welcome, free from three, hurrah, hurrah. The laurel wreath is ready now to place upon his loyal brow, and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Johnny comes marching home.
The end of the war between the states brought Johnny marching home to an epidemic of Western fever. Streams of wagons rumbled into the setting sun, but the progress of the Iron Horse was destined to be slow. For Northern Pacific, 6 years of organizing and reorganizing passed before the first shovelful of dirt was turned on a frosty February day near the present town of Carlton, west of Duluth. The year was 1870. Westward the crews plunged, warding off weather and Indians. Across the Red River the track was laid, striking out into desolate prairie without a town till Bozeman, 780 miles away. In 3 years the tracks ran to a bluff on the Missouri River at Bismarck. But there the trains were destined to stop for 6 years more, victims of the financial crash of '73. While Eastern financiers tried to revive the financially pressed road, Northern Pacific surveyors pushed on, preparing the way under protection of General Custer and the United States Cavalry till the winter of '78 and '79, when the track layers' spike mauls rang again. But now another railroad was racing east along the Columbia River from Portland under a dynamic German immigrant, journalist and financier Henry Villard. Duplicate trackage along the Columbia seemed a waste to Villard. Why not persuade the Northern Pacific to join their road to his?
Mr. Villard!
Oh, what is it, Joe?
We have the answer from the NP.
I see.
They say it's final.
Negative, I presume.
Under no circumstances will they join up with the Oregon Railway and Navigation Company. They intend to push through with their own route.
I see. Well, then, George, what would you say to our purchasing the Northern Pacific?
They'd never allow you to buy a controlling interest.
They won't have to know, George. We'll organize another company to buy both ours and theirs.
But the funds!
Come, George. We'll go write a confidential circular to send to, say, 50 men, asking them to subscribe $8 million. We won't tell them what for. Just say that secrecy is necessary to be successful. Come now, let's be along, eh?
In 24 hours, Villard's fantastic blind pool was subscribed to double its goal. By September of 1881, he was president of the Northern Pacific and pushing vigorously for the completion of the first Northern Transcontinental Railroad. But Henry Villard was more than just a financial wizard. He was a visionary, too. A man who looked at the land his line moved through and knew that it would need people and more people. Industrious, sturdy people to awaken the sleeping giant that was the North Country. So while his track layers bent to their burden, his agents fanned out over Europe to preach the gospel of the vast and varied lands that lay across the seas and off to the north and west.
Vem är han?
Tell them I'm an agent for the Northern Pacific.
All right.
And ask them if they've heard about Dakota.
Har ni hört talas om Northern Pacific järnväg eller om Dakota?
Ja, vi vet om honom och Dakota. Men vi vet inte var Dakota ligger.
They say that they know all about you, but they don't know where Dakota is.
Where Dakota is? Oh, in America!
Vi har långt att gå över salta vatten, och så finns Amerika inmed andra stranden. Inte är det möjligt att jorden är så fröjlig. Skada att Amerika ligga skall så långt ifrån.
So they came and kept coming. From Scandinavia, from the width and breadth of Britain and Europe, farmers and fishermen, artisans and laborers, to till the untilled prairies and to tap the untapped riches, to settle and build and burgeon the population of 6 young territories till they could burst full bloom into statehood. Meanwhile, by August of '83, the eastbound and westbound track gangs had narrowed the gap to a matter of miles, and Henry Villard set out with 4 gaily festooned trains from St. Paul, bearing dignitaries from the east and abroad, including former President Ulysses S. Grant. From the west steamed another train of celebration. Through the bannered towns they'd helped to build, the trains steamed along, and on September the 8th, they met at Gold Creek, Montana.
They're almost together! Watch out!
I didn't come here to make speeches, but I'm mighty proud to be with you to help celebrate.
General Grant will take the first swing at the final spike.
My pleasure, Mr. Villard.
Now, Iron Bull, chief of the Crow, will take the second. Here is the spike maul, my friend.
This is last of it. This is last thing for me to do. We have reached end of our time. New one has come.
So the final spike was driven on the first Northern Transcontinental Railroad. The oratory and the festivity went on into the night, and the red man, who had given way to the iron horse at last, joined in the celebration. So the ribbons of steel had snaked their way to the Pacific at Portland. But more was still to be done. For the moody mountains called the Cascades still barred the way to Puget Sound. 2,800 feet high on the range, the tough and inventive Bennett brothers, whom some call bold and some call fools, took the contract to tunnel 2 torturous miles through the mountains at Stampede Pass. Their deadline, 28 months. 28 months and 10,000 feet of rock, water and ice, muck and mire, anguish and tragedy. But the tenacious Bennetts hung on and kept driving crews from both portals. With 7 days till deadline, goaded by the Bennetts and Bonuses, buoyed by the work songs of a generation of railroaders, the crews battled toward a meeting.
Early one morning about 7 o'clock, there were 20 terriers working on the rock. The boss came along and he said, keep still and break down harder on the cast iron drill, and drill ye terriers drill. Drill ye terriers drill. Oh, you work all day for the sugar in your tay, down along the railway, and drill ye terriers drill, and blast and fire. The foreman was a man named John McCann. My gosh, he was a mighty fine man. One day a premature blast went off, and a mile in the air shot big Dan Goff. Now drill ye terriers drill. Drill ye terriers drill. For you work all day for the sugar in your tay, down along the railway, and drill ye terriers drill, and blast and drill and fire and blast.
Wait a minute! Listen!
Sure, and what's got into you?
Listen, you donkey! The other side!
Stand by for blasting!
You hear that? From the west end!
You can hear.
They're blasting! Clear away! Clear away! We can hear!
Look out!
The breakthrough had come at Stampede. East crews and West crews, who had heard of each other for 2 long years, met that day for the first time. and the word raced back along the line.
They broke through a stampede! They broke through!
The word raced east and west through Yakima, Spokane, and Seattle. And in Tacoma that night they danced in the streets, the night of May the 3rd in '88.
They broke through a stampede!
Folks, do you know what this means? It means people right here in Tacoma and up in Seattle, folks we know, maybe even you and me, are going to be talking about going places like Glendive or Jamestown and Minneapolis, and maybe even places like Chicago and Lancaster, PA. Oh, I can see it now. Right down at the station, in a few months, maybe a few weeks, we'll all be gathered round, and old number 231 will be hissing and a-steaming and looking prouder than Cindy Jane with a new beau on a Saturday night. We'll all be saying goodbye to friends, and Jack Jones will come strutting out like Lillian Russell making her debut at the Opry House. And the crowd will hush, and Jack will say, train number 2 now leaving for Yakima, Pasco, Spokane, Missoula, Butte, Livingston, Billings, Huntley, Shirley, Burley, Gary, Gilby, Kimberly, Frazee, Margie, Terry, Motley, Darby, and all points east.
Shake hands with the eastern crowd in a friendly kind of way. For the east is east and the west is west, but the twain have met today. Shake hands with Walla Walla, St. Cloud, St. Paul, and Schley.
Shake hands with Deer Lodge, Red Lodge, Bozeman is on the way.
Dawson, Judson,
Dickinson, Garrison,
Forest Lake, Moose Lake,
Big Lake, Clear Lake, Tower City,
Valley City,
Rush City, Pine City,
Miles City, and Cocaine. Shake hands with the eastern crowd in a friendly kind of way. For the east is east and the west is west, but the twain have met today. Shake hands with the eastern crowd in a friendly kind of way. For the east is east and the west is west, but the twain have met today.
Shake hands with Logan, Lake Park, Bismarck, and don't forget Butte.
Shake hands with Pembina, Helena, give Yakima our salute.
Elk River,
Turtle River,
Big Falls,
Little Falls,
Grand Forks,
Three Forks,
Clark Fork,
Little Fork,
Fargo, Buffalo,
Moscow, Idaho,
Hugo, and Duluth.
Duluth.
Would you rather rhyme Duluth with Butte?
Shake hands with the eastern crowd in a friendly kind of way. For the east is east and the west is west, but the twain have met today.